Shalom, Kal Halal, Yahweh Bashem Yahushai, Bashem Kakudash. Double honors to the elder apostles and elder bishops of GMS, including the elders that came before them that taught us this truth. The Shalom and salutations to all the brothers out pushing the word of truth and in sincerity, the hopeful elect, Tabernacle of David. All right, this lesson is going to go into the final battle of Armageddon, all right, which will be centered, if you will, in the valley of Yehoshaphat or Jehoshaphat, okay, which is in the Middle East. All right, so let's get this. Joel 3 and 2. I, the Most High, will also gather all nations and bring them down into the valley of Yehoshaphat or Jehoshaphat, and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. Okay, which the Most High's land, Israel, right, is in what they call the Middle East. All right, look at this a little closer, and it says right here in the NLT, I will gather the armies of the world into the valley of Yehoshaphat or Jehoshaphat, right, which is the last battle of World War III, Armageddon. Okay, so where's all the fighting at right now? All the fighting right now is in the majority of it, if you will, or the spotlight is in Eastern Europe, what they call Ukraine against Russia or whatever is going on there. It's a proxy war. You got Ukraine standing, and then you got NATO, you got the EU, and then you have the whore that rideth upon that beast, which is Babylon the Great, also known as the United States of America. All right, and that's where all the focus is right now. But where is this at? The Valley of Yehoshaphat? It's in the Middle East. Okay, so things have to shift. All right. Now, what is causing that shift right now? What is causing the attention to be focused now in the Middle East? Well, two things. You got the war in Syria, right, which is bringing the attention back to the Middle East. You got the Israelis over there. You won't hear it in the mainstream news, but the Israelis are over there dropping bombs on Syria, on the Iranians, the Carmanians, if you will, regularly throughout the week, and it's not getting any attention. All right. So that's one of the things. The other thing is what? OPEC Plus. OPEC Plus is like, we Arabs are not going to do business as far as buying oil in the American dollar or with the Americans anymore, right? And that's going to shift, right? What does America do when you won't trade oil in dollars? Ask Saddam Hussein. Ask Muammar Gaddafi, right? Uh, they go in and they do what they do, all right? So what are they going to do in the Middle East? That's what this whole thing is about. So the Most High is gathering them. How's he going to gather them? We're watching it, okay? He's destabilizing the oil trade, right? The petrodollar is over. OPEC is switching up. All right, so what we're going to do, all right, there's the Middle East. We're going to watch this Gonzalo Lira. And Gonzalo, I believe, is in the Ukraine. If he's not in the Ukraine, I believe he's in the Ukraine speaking. Okay? He's from Chile. He's a Chilean resident. He's a citizen of Chile. I think he's a citizen of the United States, dual citizenship, and he lives in the Ukraine. So he knows a lot about what's going on in that area, right? But see, he's not going to speak on the Ukraine, which he usually does. They actually came and picked him up. The Ukrainian Gestapo came and grabbed him up because he was making these videos, and they detained him for a while, and everybody was worried about it. And then he came back, but he's being very careful what he says. But what he's going to speak on right now, he's not speaking out on the war in Eastern Europe. He's talking about the Middle East, or the Valley of Yehoshaphat, where the final battle, Armageddon, will be fought. And he's going to explain how the shift is going to go from Eastern Europe suddenly over here, okay, into the Middle East, and why, okay? And it deals with OPEC Plus and who they're trading oil with. So let's listen to this. This is Gonzalo Lira again, channel 23 hours. This is a day ago. All right, the U.S. hates the peace breaking out in the Middle East because all of those people who were at odds with each other, right, all of those, the Iranians, the Arabs, and all the surrounding people were at odds because that was the policy of the U.S. for many, many years. And now it's all switching. It's all flip-flopping, okay? And that's a problem. All right, so let's listen to him put it all together. Here you go. Take it away, Gonzalo.
A while since I've done a video on my... Hey, how's it going? It's been quite a while since I've done a video on this channel, on any channel, to tell the truth. I've done like some live streams here and there, and I've been completely addicted to Twitter, but I haven't been doing my videos here, though I have been doing them on Patreon. But anyway, the point is that I'm back here, and I'm going to be trying to produce content here on a regular basis, and I'm also going to be restarting my roundtable series. Tomorrow, Tuesday, as a matter of fact, I'm going to have a whole show about the view of the war from the other side, from the Russian side, what people in Russia or Russians think of what's going on. So I hope you'll come back to me and make me happy with views, even though I'm not monetized, but make me happy with views because, you know, my ego, my sense of self depends on how many viewers I get. So anyway, kidding aside, I'm going to talk about something like macro, because I'm a macro guy. You know, I like to sort of like step back and kind of like understand the shape of the geopolitical reality that we're living through right now. And what I want to discuss specifically are the moves that are going on in the Middle East. You know, a couple of weeks ago, there was a big thing about Saudi Arabia and Iran making nice with one another. They're reopening their embassies in their respective capital cities. And all of a sudden, you know, there's all this, you know, we're best buddies, where we love each other once again, which of course makes complete sense because these two are the biggest, strongest, richest Muslim countries in the Middle East. It makes complete sense for them to have some sort of rapprochement so as to ease the tension between both and help each other in the long run. Because a lot of the problems that each of them have are complemented by the other. And so having a rapprochement is just the obvious, sensible thing. There is no reason to have this enmity. But the problem is that the enmity between Iran and Saudi Arabia was, in essence, a cornerstone of American Middle Eastern policy. The fact that that enmity seems to be slowly evaporating, and in its place, not only a rapprochement diplomatically, but much more importantly, insofar as the oil markets. I mean, you have to understand, Iran and Saudi Arabia are the two largest producers of oil in the Middle East. The two of them, having this rapprochement, will all of a sudden mean that they can coordinate oil policy as they have been starting to do. The White House yesterday was a little bit, you know, freaking out over the fact that that they are cutting oil supplies. Middle Eastern countries are cutting oil outputs, which of course will put pressure on the dollar, because as they cut output, of course, less supply with the same demand means higher prices in dollars. And that's making the Americans extremely nervous. because the United States has run out of its strategic petroleum reserve, or it's just about to run out, and so it will not be able to artificially deflate the price of gasoline in the United States. Coupled with a whammy of the Middle Eastern countries cutting back on production, and inflation in the United States will, it won't go away, as Janet Yellen keeps insisting that it'll go away at some point. No, it'll just keep on rising, keep on trucking. And so the Americans are very nervous about this rapprochement between Iran and Saudi Arabia. They're also very nervous insofar as their client state, Israel. We never know, if Israel is a client state or it's the tail wagging the dog. Let's not get into that quagmire, but they're nervous about Israel's position. Netanyahu is certainly worried, and something else is going on. The Turks and Erdogan, they are also making nice with people that they have had enmity with. See, the Saudis and the Turks have been involved through proxy agents in the Syrian conflict. And they too, Saudi Arabia and Turkey, are making nice all of a sudden. They're making nice, and they are withdrawing their support from their respective proxies. The Syrian conflict, which has involved Turkey, Iran, and Saudi Arabia, either directly or indirectly through proxies, that's winding down. The fact that the Chinese came in and cut this deal, arranged this rapprochement between Iran and Saudi Arabia, and China and Russia has been, gently nudging Saudi Arabia and Turkey to get back and, just ease off with everything. See, this is only a disaster for the United States. Right now in the State Department, I don't need to be like a magician to know, some psychic ability on my part to know that in the State Department of the United States, they must be freaking out. Because all of a sudden, the Americans who hold the eastern quarter of Syria, where they are stealing oil at the rate of about 80,000 barrels of oil per day, and stealing the agriculture of the Syrian people, let's not forget that. Well, all of a sudden, nobody is on their side. Everybody is withdrawing of their quote-unquote Middle Eastern partners. Why? That's the key question. Why are they doing this? Why is Saudi Arabia, Iran, and Turkey just, easing off of Syria, making nice with one another, and helping to pacify the Syrian conflict once and for all, and leave the Americans the odd man out? Why are they doing this? Why is Saudi Arabia starting to sell its oil in yuan? It's obvious. They know that the American regime's days are numbered. And I'm not talking about the Biden regime per se, I'm talking about any regime that is in power in the United States. The Middle East is realizing that the United States is sinking. And they're getting their cards in order and fixing their relationships because they understand that this new pole that has emerged, that is very clear and very powerful between China and Russia, that's the future. They recognize it. Especially Mohammed bin Salman.
Okay, now he's going to go into the leader of Saudi Arabia and who is controlling the oil trade coming out of Saudi Arabia. All right, and this is very important what he's about to say, okay, because this is going to switch, right, the focus from Vladimir Putin being the bad guy, right, the world pariah, if you will, the new Hitler, right, over in Ukraine and Russia. He's going to point towards this bin Salman guy, right, over in Saudi Arabia. He's going to be the new bad guy, right? Very soon, we're gonna see the switch from Vladimir Putin to this new bin Salman guy, and now he's going to be the target because this is the linchpin. This guy is the linchpin for the continuation of the petrodollar, which is all but gone, but for the whole Middle East. And if they switch over to to where the Russians and the Chinese are, it's game over. So, what does Babylon or the United States do when somebody wants to switch up and trade oil and anything but dollars? They go in. They send their military in, right? And the scriptures are going to show you, right, a horrible vision. Okay? So let's let him speak and keep this guy Ben Solomon. He's going to point to him. That's what this whole video is about. This whole video is about pointing to Ben Solomon, who will become the new Vladimir Putin, the world bad guy, right, in the eyes of America. All right? So listen close how he shifts it. And it's very unexpected. You know, when I watched this, I was like, "Oh wow, what is he saying?" Okay, so I'll back it up a little.
That's the future. They recognize it, especially Mohammed bin Salman, the de facto leader of Saudi Arabia, who in time will probably become king. He is a man of, I believe, 38 years old. So he is a man who looks forward in his life, and he recognizes that he's got at least 2-3 decades in him before he cedes power. And the kind of guy he is, you know, he's never going to cede power. You know, he's going to be one of those guys who like 90 years old and still firmly with his hands on the wheel. He's going to be like, you know these old guys who never let go. Think of George Soros, you know, somebody like that, right? But he's at the start of this journey. So he realizes that the decisions he makes now, he will have to live with them in 10, 20, 30 years.
Which we're not going to get to. We got a year and a half tops.
And he's the one that's most interesting as far as I'm concerned, because he will likely be, in my estimation, is the man who's looking most towards the future. And it is Saudi Arabia that is making these efforts of rapprochement with Turkey and with Iran, of quieting down the civil war. I mean, hell, they just invited Bashar Assad, the president of Syria, to come to Saudi Arabia. What the hell do you think that means, huh? Now, it's the Saudis who are pushing this. And the Americans must be freaking out. And so, 2 plus 2. Who is causing problems for the Americans? MBS. He's fucking with the chaos that the Americans have instilled in the Middle East to their benefit. Because, do keep in mind, everything that happened with the global war on terror, the invasion of Afghanistan, the invasion of Iraq, Libya, Syria, all of this was to create chaos in the Middle East. Because the Americans thought that with chaos in the Middle East, it would play to their benefit. With more chaos, playing one side off the other, they could get what they want, what the Americans want, which is cheap oil. Cheap oil and everybody fighting one another, and the Americans able to exploit all of these smaller powers to their heart's content. But now that chaos is receding because of the Chinese efforts and the Russian efforts, do keep in mind, it was the Russians who saved Syria, who kept it afloat. And it's the Russians who have made incredible diplomatic efforts with Iran, with Turkey, with Saudi Arabia, to help things tidy things up and bring stability and peace, which goes against American interests. So who is the figure that the Americans would hate the most? Mohammed bin Salman, of course. And so my thinking at this time is that the American State Department right now, as we're speaking, in coordination with CIA and God knows who else, they're trying to figure out a way to overthrow Mohammed bin Salman. Because he's the linchpin of peace in the Middle East. With Mohammed bin Salman gone, and some pro-American power in Riyadh, they could ramp up the chaos once again. Because remember, the United States is the empire of chaos. It is a broken economy that only exists because it has a huge military, and it uses that military in its diplomatic efforts to sow chaos everywhere it goes to its own benefit. If peace breaks out in the Middle East, as it is breaking out now, that goes against American interests. And so Mohammed bin Salman, it seems to me, is the man that they are going to try to overthrow. Mohammed bin Salman, whatsoever you may think about him, you may think that he's evil, bloodthirsty, this or that. You may think he's a saint, a savior. It doesn't matter what you think of him. But as a practical matter,
Oh, I believe he's the one that had Khashoggi killed or dismembered or whatever.
he is the man who's fucking with the American shit. And so the Americans are thinking, how can we get rid of him? Because Iran, what, you're going to invade Iran? You can't really invade Iran. It's a huge fucking country. And on top of that, Iran has been sanctioned all over the place, so there are no more sanctions to use on it. Turkey, it's dangerous because Turkey is, number one, the largest NATO army in Europe. Number one. Number two, if it were to pull out of NATO, and with that number of Syrian refugees that it has, just flood Europe with those refugees, it would cause chaos that the Americans can't handle. Certainly the Europeans can't handle it. So they want to be tiptoeing insofar as Erdogan is concerned. But Saudi Arabia is supposed to be a client state of the United States. That was the whole purpose of the agreement that they cut in August of 74 between then Treasury Secretary Simon and the Saudi king at the time.
OPEC.
That the United States would guarantee Saudi Arabia's security in exchange for the Saudis selling their oil in dollars and using their excess dollars to buy treasury bonds. But now the Saudis are talking about selling in yuan. Now the Saudis are making nice with enemies of the United States. Now the Saudis are trying to create peace so they can expand their markets to China and the Far East.
OPEC Plus.
Mohammed bin Salman is going to be declared enemy number one of the United States. You watch. They're going to start talking about human rights in Saudi Arabia and all kinds of bullshit. It's just a facade. It's bullshit. It's propaganda. Because the Americans must be realizing that they have to get rid of Mohammed bin Salman now, soon, like in the next 6-12 months. Or else peace will break out to the detriment of the Americans. Understand what's going on.
Okay, so, and how do it's true? Okay, so we'll just go back to Joel. This is the last battle. Okay, I will gather the army, Joel 3 and 2. I will gather the armies of the world into the valley of Yehoshaphat, into the Middle East. Okay, right now, except for what happened the other day with Iran shooting the missile at the American camp and then retaliating. Other than that, the focus has been in Eastern Europe, in Russia and Ukraine and Poland and the surrounding area. But this is bringing it where? Right back to the Middle East. Okay, let me quickly see what they say about Khashoggi here. Who killed Khashoggi? Was it bin Salman? Let's see. Bin Salman killed, right? Is that right? Killed bin Salman Khashoggi. Let's see. Let's see. Let's see. Let's go here. Because this was a little while back on a killing, assassination of Jamal Khashoggi, all right, who was a journalist. Okay, it says on 2nd October 2018, Jamal Khashoggi, a Saudi dissident journalist, was assassinated by agents of the Saudi government at the Saudi consulate in Istanbul, Turkey. Okay. Khashoggi was ambushed and strangled by a 15-member squad of Saudi assassins. Okay, so are they saying that bin Salman has anything to do with this? They're saying the Saudi government. Okay, it says, but denied that the killing took place on the orders of bin Salman. It says, after repeatedly shifting its account of what happened to Khashoggi in the days following the killing, the Saudi government admitted on the 25th of November that he had been killed in a premeditated murder, but denied that the killing took place on the orders of bin Salman. Bin Salman said he accepted responsibility for the killing because it happened under my watch, but asserted that he did not order it. Okay, so you figure that out. By November 2018, the CIA, believe everything they say, the U.S. had concluded that bin Salman had ordered the assassination. So, and then there was beheading and I believe they chopped him up and did all of this really gruesome stuff. Let's see. Yeah. We don't have to get into that, but it was supposed to be very gruesome. Tortured, killed. Let's see. Da, da, da. Guess they won't get into it anyway. It says, began to cut Khashoggi's body up on a table in the study while he was still alive. Da 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 da. Okay, so that's why they were saying that bin Salman was this butcher and da 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 da. But who's the real butcher? Okay, I just wanted to go into that real quick. Anyway, let me go ahead and conclude this. We'll go to 2nd Ezra 15 and 20, what, 30, what? Here. All right. Behold, 15:28. 2nd Ezra 15:28. Behold, a horrible vision, and the appearance thereof from the east, where the nations of the dragons of Arabia, Saudi Arabia, where the nations of the dragons of Arabia shall come out with many chariots. Okay, so here comes the battle of Armageddon. Here comes the Middle East is going to take center stage with the battle of Armageddon. Okay, where the nations of the dragons of Arabia shall come out with many chariots, and the multitude of them shall be carried as the wind upon the earth, that all they which hear them may fear and tremble. Also, the Carmanians. Who's the Carmanians? Iranians. Carmania is a city within Persia, or what they call today Iran. Raging in wrath shall go forth as the wild boars of the wood. Okay, you just heard Gonzalo Lira saying that that they're all coming back together over there. They're all the big peace in the Middle East accord going on, because the Carmanians are not really Arabs. Okay, so it says, with great power shall they come and join battle with them, and shall waste a portion of the land of the Assyrians. And then shall the dragons, what dragons? The dragons of Arabia, have the upper hand, remembering their nature. And if they shall turn themselves, conspiring together in great power to persecute them, who? The Assyrians, the Babylonians. Then these shall be troubled, bled, and keep silence through their power, and shall flee. And from the land of the Assyrians shall the enemy besiege them and consume some of them, and in their host shall be fear and dread and strife among their kings. Okay, so this is going into the this battle right here, right? All right, so this is how the point is this. You got your boy Gonzalo. He is describing the shift from Eastern Europe into the Middle East and why. He just explained it. Okay? Why? Because peace. Peace between who? Peace between everybody that America had against each other in that region for years. Well, they're all coming together. Against who? Against the U.S. All right? And it's about that petrodollar being completely stamped out. All right. So this just lets us know how close we are to the end. Okay. You understand? How does this thing get back to the Middle East? Right? For the ultimate ambush. This ambush right here, this is what the Most High is doing. He's gathering the armies of the world. Where? Into the Middle East. All right. So I saw that and I just thought that, that should come out on something separate than the World War III Daily Update. So we're not exactly here yet. So we'll keep it in Eastern Europe. I'm about to do that update right now. So with that, we hope that the elect were edified. You brothers and few sisters, with that, we'll say shalom.